Good afternoon, everyone. We are here today to host a session with some dignitaries who have joined us from JMA and Tata 1mg. Firstly, I'd like to start this session by introducing Mr. Amitabh Bhattacharya. He is an alumni of XLRI itself. Mr. Amitabh Bhattacharya has more than 20 years of experience with working with Tata Steel in operations, strategy, transformation programs, etc. Currently, he's leading a newly curved business line in Tata Metallics as Chief of Technical Services Business. He's also leading JMA as a CEO and an honorary secretary for the last 4 years. Mr. Amitabh, you can go ahead and introduce Chanakya sir and Prashant sir.
Yeah, thanks, Siddharth. And good afternoon, everyone. So this is the second time in a row Jamshedpur Management Association, popularly known as, is participating in Ensemble Valhalla and the Fest of XLRI. Last year, speaker was Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, who is a senior Tata leader, which we all of us know. And this time we have a young and dynamic Tata leader, Prashant Tandon, CEO of Tata 1mg. So before I move forward, a brief introduction on JMA. Jamshedpur Management Association is affiliated to All India Management Association, New Delhi. We connect to nearly 8,000 management professionals in Jamshedpur and beyond, covering organizations like Tata Steel, Tata Motors, Tata Steel Utilities and Infrastructure Limited, ICICI Bank, Indian Steel and Wire Products, to name a few. JMA conducts large number of trade talks, competitions, and training programs for management professionals and students. JMA has a rich board comprising of vice presidents, CXOs, directors, and a young managing team who are professionals from various organizations who voluntarily contributes to make JMA stronger. JMA has won the Best Management Association Award for FY20 and 21 from IMA. JMA is also a part of the IMA Council or the board, the only one association from the Eastern India. Today we have with us JMA President Mr. Chanakya Chaudhary, who is also the Vice President Corporate Services at Tata Steel. Let me briefly introduce him before I hand over the session to him for setting the context. Is an alumnus of BITS Pilani Institute and SEDA. Mr. Chaudhary has 3 decades experience with Tata Steel, covering raw materials, communications, regulatory affairs, and business excellence, and government relations. Apart from JMA, he serves on the board of Hockey S Foundation, Tata Steel Foundation, Medica Tata Steel Hospital Private Limited, Jamshedpur Football and Sporting Private Limited, Tata Steel Utilities and Infrastructure Limited, Tata Steel Special Economic Zone, S&T Mining, Tata Steel Mining. He is the co-chair of FICCI National Sports Committee, vice chairman of Jharkhand State CII Council, and a member of Eastern Region CII Council. He is also a member of the Communications Committee of WSHIS in WSA. With this now, I request President JMA, Mr. Chanakya Chaudhary, to set the context for the afternoon. Yeah. So over to you, sir.
Thanks, Amitabh, and good afternoon, everyone. As Amitabh was mentioning, I think it's a great pleasure that JMA has been a part of this festival of XLRI for second year now. And I think he's already introduced Jamshedpur Management Association, but just mentioning about Jamshedpur, mentioning about XLRI, mentioning about Tata Steel, I think somewhere whenever anyone hears the name of Jamshedpur, 2 things the board of Jamshedpur. Now, I think this session is more about Prashant Tandon, my friend and now colleague, and I think we should be all talking about him and not taking too much time between all of you and him. I think Prashant had come to Jamshedpur a short while ago, and he's also set up something here. The other day I was just driving across, I saw the 1mg showroom as well. I call it a showroom. Someone may call it a pharmacy or a chemist shop, but I think something great that Prashant, you and your team have really done. And I think the young leaders in XLRI would like to really hear from you. So I'm also very happy and proud that, Prashant, when he's speaking to you, he's also speaking to you as a Tata leader. So he's one of the newer companies, newer generation companies of Tata Group, which have been added to the basket. 1mg, Tata MD, Big Basket. These are the 2, 3 young companies. So all yours. I don't want to come in between. Amitabh and XLRI, please take it forward, introduce Prashant, and let's have a good session going. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. I will briefly introduce Mr. Prashant Tandon and then hand over the session back to XLRI. Yeah. So Mr. Prashant Tandon is the co-founder and CEO of Tata 1mg, India's largest digital health platform. Prashant has been one of the India's leading entrepreneurs in Indian digital healthcare since 2019, having co-founded and led 1mg and HealthCart, both industry-defining companies in their space. In addition, Prashant has also been leading, evangelizing, and representing the industry across multiple forums. He chairs the Health Tech Committee at Internet and Mobile Association of India, FICCI e-Pharmacy Working Group, Helms DHP Digital Health Platforms, and Association of India's top e-health companies as their first president. Prashant is recognized as a key industry leader and contributes actively across the Indian healthcare ecosystem and public policy. Under his leadership, Tata 1mg has disrupted the standard model of healthcare delivery and grown to operate India's largest online pharmacy, diagnostic, and e-consultation platform, powered by the gold standards in medicine content in India, thus making healthcare understandable, accessible, and affordable for millions of Indians. Till 2009, before he returned to India, Prashant worked at the McKinsey & Company in San Francisco, where he focused on healthcare sector. He started his career with the business leadership program at Hindustan Unilever India. Prashant is an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business and a graduate from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. With this, I welcome Mr. Prashant Tandon once again. It's a pleasure having you. Over to you, Siddharth. Thanks.
Very good afternoon, Prashant, sir. It's a pleasure having you here. A lot of the students were very excited to ask their questions to you, and that's why we have collected a set of questions, which I would be going ahead and asking you. So firstly, of course, the very first question is, what inspired you to start Tata, like 1mg as a company, and what was the idea behind getting to the story of it?
So it's first of all, thanks for having me. It's a huge privilege and honor to speak with institutions like XLRI and be on this discussion today. So the story of 1mg is a story of evolution. It's not one idea that came one day and resulted in me setting out to create something like a 1mg. The story goes back to when I was with McKinsey in San Francisco. I was doing largely healthcare work, and I got to see the US healthcare system up close and figured that there's a lot to learn. There are a lot of things that are absolutely wrong or don't work, but there are a lot of things you can find where things are working beautifully, and their systems, processes, technology, and sophistication of healthcare is at a different level. And I believed that Indian healthcare ecosystem, while we'll have to find our own solutions, will definitely get digitized at some point in time, will get streamlined at some point in time, and it has to be a system that works better at the end of the day, because healthcare is one of those spaces where it's one of the largest markets, and it is one of the biggest pain points. Nobody in most countries of the world are happy with the healthcare ecosystem that they get. And certainly I felt that was a big space in India. What does an entrepreneur need really to get started? A large opportunity and a lot of pain points to solve for. And healthcare seemed to suggest both of them are there in plenty. Now, when we came back, Samir, who was my co-founder, and I started a company called Health Chakra in 2009, working with doctors, doing practice management software to help them do e-prescriptions, medical records, and all that stuff. We came with the view that if we digitize the doctor's clinic, from there we'll get to the consumer, we'll get to the pharma company, insurance company, etc., etc. Turned out that wasn't the right way to go about it, and we spent a good year and a half on what you may call a failure, or you may call the biggest learning we ever got. But those 15 months that we spent inside doctors' clinics, talking to doctors, patients, we understood that the world is going to move towards a patient-centric world, where, and in healthcare at that time, it was almost blasphemous to suggest that healthcare can be patient-centric, which we today seems very normal. And today, even healthcare companies say that they want to be patient-centric. Back that time, everyone felt that healthcare has to be hospital or doctor-centric, and patients don't know what is right for them, etc., etc. But so first move was we decided we'll go direct to consumer and started a company called HealthCart in 2011. Then from within HealthCart in 2012, because we had made all this data of medicines out there for consumers, we thought this is all very useful data. People are all over Google looking for information on healthcare. We've already made it for doctors. Doctors never used it. Let's put it out there for consumers, at least to learn more about their medicines, price comparison of different brands, generics, etc., etc., what to use, what not to use, all that rich information. And we put it out in an app, which organically grew up to become India's largest healthcare app at that time. Now that app, and that used to be called HealthCart Plus, which we then felt had grown to a level. And just to give an example, it was early stages of the digital app ecosystem in India in 2014. Our main app, HealthCart, had around 50,000 downloads. I think Practo and others were around 40,000 at that time. And this new thing had around 1.5 million downloads without spending a penny on marketing. And all it did was give transparency around medicine information and prices. So we felt certainly something is happening in the ecosystem. Consumers are looking for transparency. They are looking for a platform they can trust, and maybe this can be. And that's when, and a lot of our consumers actually started asking that, okay, we get information, why can't we even get our medicines delivered, and etc., etc. And we started thinking, yeah, why not? It should be doable. It should be possible. Supply chains are broken in many parts of the healthcare ecosystem. That's when we decided this is something exciting enough for us to put full force and full focus behind. So we demerged out HealthCart from the parent company, created a new company, branded it as 1mg, and that's how the story began. So the story of 1mg in many ways is consistent with one thing that we believed, that healthcare would be digitized, it would be simplified. So in that situation, it began in 2009. However, the path we took to doing that, which was we moved from a doctor-centric to a healthcare-centric path, or a patient-centric path, sorry, that happened in 2015 when we branched out as an independent company.
I think so. I think that was an amazing story. And my next question was actually going to be, what were the kind of challenges which you might have faced? So anything specific? I think you covered a lot of points up, but any specific challenges you faced as a startup?
Lots. And given any startup faces a lot of challenges. So not discounting that, there are standard business challenges which are there. I'll come to that. But before that, I just want to add that in a regulated industry and a large industry with big incumbents, there are additional challenges that non-regulated sectors do not have to go through. So now in our case, we had a situation where e-pharmacy, digital healthcare, data, all of these were new things for the regulators, for the powers that be. There are a lot of vested interests, and we also were in a situation where there were strong trade associations that were vehemently opposed to our bringing transparency and lowering the cost of this ecosystem. So we had a lot of headwinds. So our challenges was one structural, where at the regulatory level, we needed to make sure that we are able to educate the regulators, right from drug departments to the governments to the various ministries, because the way our ecosystem is structured, it is very siloed. There's Ministry of Health, Ministry of Technology, Commerce, etc., etc. When you do something in the digital world, it is all encompassing. And so our model was fully compliant, but it was different aspects of it were compliant under different laws and different regulators who did not, like drug regulator did not understand the IT Act. The IT regulator would not know about the Drugs Act, etc., etc. Now, harmonizing it and explaining it again and again till people reached understanding of it was one big challenge. The other big challenge was that the trade association was not keen to see us see light of the day, and we are one of those few sectors where in the first year of our journey, the Pharmacy Association of India went on a nationwide strike, and they've done it 3 times since against online pharmacies. So we had the kind of pushback we got in very early days was something that most other sectors do not get to deal with. So we had to deal with all of that. Then in addition, I think the thing is, when you are setting up something that doesn't have a parallel, then convincing people that this makes sense is a little tougher. It's always easier to say that this is how it is happening in US, this is how it is happening in China, now we are doing it in India. When you are, the first question they ask is it done in US, China? And the answer is they are also in the early stages of digital health. So we are moving with the world, leading in many ways. And when we talk to the best companies of US and Europe and China, they are amazed by the kind of stuff that we are building in digital healthcare. And so it is a disruptive view, which is very hard for people to understand why it will work, because it doesn't have a parallel peer that they can just look at that, okay, you're bringing the Uber of to India, you are bringing Amazon to India, etc., etc. is much easier to understand. So that concept itself was very tough to sell. And it's not just, I think investors is one part of the ecosystem where it is challenging. The other part is even to hire people. You need people who believe in the fundamental value that you create. And it is a much longer cycle when you are creating something that is fundamentally different, that hasn't been proven, and your only reason to believe that you will succeed is because it makes sense from first principles, not because there is example of it having been done. So those were the dimensions of challenges that we had. After that, it is all about setting up the organization, scaling it appropriately, people growing into various roles, hiring a deep core team. I think we are very fortunate with all of these things. You have to be very lucky to survive in a startup situation, and we were very fortunate. We got great investors to back us early in the day. We got a very deep core team, so we were able to kind of overcome a bunch of these challenges.
Yes, sir. And one thing I would like to say is that a lot of students in our generation are passionate about the idea of entrepreneurship as a whole. They want to set up their own business and they want something which they can call it for themselves. So any particular advice or guidance which you could give them towards entrepreneurship as a whole?
So see, entrepreneurship is it's extremely challenging, and you need to be very clear what you're signing up for. It's not as rosy as it looks, because the only thing you get to see is if at all there is success, then those few stories that come up. And the reality is 95-99% of these startups do not succeed in terms of financial outcomes. And I think defining what you are signing up for and understanding what you will get out of it, you're signing up for a journey. The destination may or may not look like you envisaged it, but you have to be really happy to be on the journey, and you are there for the experience of what you're going to learn from it. And I think if your mind is in the right zone in that perspective, it's a lot easier, because if you have to be at a stage when you just can't think of doing anything else. Entrepreneurship is not about making detailed trade-offs, whether I should do this, should I get a job there versus job here versus doing something else. or versus doing entrepreneurship. Because if it is entrepreneurship, then no other option is on the table. You can't be choosing entrepreneurship. You just give up everything else, and that's your only path then. Because you are not signing up, because otherwise you'll always live with regret that I chose a tougher life, because it is a tougher life till you, and if you see success. At the age of or rather 3 years, 5 years into the game, you will find people who had taken up much more stable jobs and careers are able to fly abroad for their vacations. They're having a good time with family. They have time to spend on various fun activities, and you are still here struggling, trying to wonder if it will go anywhere at all or not. And you're signing up for a journey. And so people who want to get into it, do it, because it's actually the only thing that is on your mind, and it is something you feel that you will enjoy the process of. The destination, you need a lot of luck. You need things to work out in your favor. And the other thing is, when you are on the journey, it's extremely important to be very balanced and focused, because you get swayed a lot by small things here and there. And it's natural, but I think what my one kind of guidance or suggestion to people is that just be very sharply focused about what are the variables you can control and what you cannot control, and then spend all your time and energy on what you can control rather than obsessing about what you cannot control. And mostly early entrepreneurs do it opposite. They have a lot focused on what is happening in the world. What is my competitor doing? What is the other person doing? What is the media talking about? This, that. I think you need to be very, very focused on understanding there are things you can control, things that you cannot control. What you can should take your time. What you cannot should not take your mind space, because it will only slow you down. So I think those are the things I would say. Baki, it's everybody's journey is individual. They know why they are in it. And entrepreneurship, my only main thing is, it's for the fashion of it is a dangerous pursuit. For the desire of it, there is nothing more fulfilling.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Coming to Tata 1mg now, sir, where do you think is the health tech market heading right now? And how does your company, Tata 1mg, plan to stay relevant with the advancements of technology in the future?
Yeah, so health tech market is coming of age, especially post-COVID. And I think a lot of things that we had envisaged when we started out are starting to actually play out in very interesting ways now. One is technology, and that was a part of the question, how is technology also changing? Technology is making a lot of things that were earlier very hard to do. They're making them possible. Digitizing. So the phase one of healthcare is setting up the plumbing, the basic infrastructure that your medicines, your lab tests, your consultations, even before that information, all of that is transparently made available. So those are the building blocks of healthcare that we set up in the first phase. Now, the next phase that is coming is, can healthcare move into a much more integrated, patient-centric life cycle experience? Now, what does that mean? Healthcare is not an episode. It is a system of living well. And it is, most of the things are over a period of time, and it needs to be a continuum. And it is not about just providing, for example, medicines are a part of healthcare, but medicines are also just a shopkeeping activity. Do we want to be a shopkeeper, or do we want to be a healthcare provider? Depends on how we think about our philosophy of what we are building. Now, what is happening now is that we have longitudinal data on a lot of patients more and more. That data is giving us deep insights into where are the patients headed over a period of time, and looking at other people who were in a similar boat. These are the key inflection points or decision points where intervention is needed. So as and when we are able to understand more and more patient profiles, the data sciences are kicking in a very meaningful way in healthcare, we are able to create these long-term trajectories of what health trajectory a person is on. And in the future, that is what will make it preventative. That's you are in a situation, say you have diabetes and you have reached a situation after which 80% of the patients just go downhill. And this is the time to intervene. And we are able to identify that better and better. That is what makes that downhill slope change. And I think we are looking at personalized healthcare, preventive healthcare, and a much more predictive healthcare. Yeah, starting with what data is going to do. The other thing is, how does that data get captured is also going through a radical revolution as we speak. That most of us have heard IoT in multiple domains. IoT is going to play a big role because it's already now collecting and transmitting data real time. So the action can be taken real time. If I have your ECG through your watch and your pulse and your BP and all of that flowing in, I can tell you real time what you need to do if there is an episode or if there is a deterioration or etc. etc. So where is healthcare going is all of these, the foundational plumbing got done. Now we are building upon very fast layers and layers using technology, which is largely, I would say, IoT and data sciences, which are creating the personalized model of healthcare.
Now, I think Tata 1mg provides teleconsulting and e-pharmacy services as well. So I wanted to ask you that this healthcare sector is a sector with huge responsibilities. So how does Tata 1mg manage to give accurate results and give accurate consulting to the patients they have without physical interaction with them?
Yes, and I think that's a very good question, and it's important that at least we are very, very sensitive about the sector we play in and the responsibility that we have. And when we started, we were of course the first to get started, but we were different from a lot of e-commerce companies, including my own e-commerce company, HealthCard, before that, in the sense that we always had a very large medical affairs and quality assurance team, even before commerce and way before we started marketing. So our first focus was always, because our foundation was in people trusted the information we provided. We provided information around medicines. So we set up a full medical affairs team whose only job was to ensure deep accuracy of medication, and whatever we are doing is correct. So that information, and then we go very academic about it. We have published 4 or 5 papers in reputed journals. We have taken certifications we are the only Indian platform that is certified by Legit Script, which is a US certification for online pharmacies. We are ISO certified, and etc. etc. We make sure that if there is a body that can certify, when we open our labs, we go for NABL accreditation ourselves. We make sure that if there are external bodies that can validate our work, we do go for that. But irrespective, we want to be better than the best in class in what we are delivering. So a lot of it comes from the ethos of the company. We are very much careful about entering a new space. A very common thing you'll hear from most startups is fail fast. In our sector, we can't do that, because our failure, if a consumer ends up suffering for that, then we can't do that. So we have to be very, very careful about getting started. When we get started only when we are ready to take the responsibility of what it means. And the reality of it is, at the end of the day, all these are statements unless you put resources and money behind it. And in our case, that is what we have: the largest medical affairs team in the business. In the initial phases, we spent way more time, effort, energy on medical affairs than we did on marketing. And that is what has helped us at least build the brand that we did. And after that, it is about maintaining an organization that can stand by those values, those ethos, and making sure your organization structure, we don't Under no circumstances should people be taking shortcuts for financial gains, shortcuts with respect to quality. I'll give you a very another direct example on medicines. Um, you can easily get 5, 10, 15% extra margin if you go and buy from the um, shady part of the trade ecosystem. In Delhi, you have Bhagirath Place, there's a full market in Agra, etc., etc. But we only buy from pharma direct or pharma authorized ecosystem. It is a loss of margin, but the guardrails are very clear. We will not take a chance. We are okay to um, give up profitability for that pursuit, but we will not go into markets where we are not 100% confident of what we are offering. So those are then practical decisions and costs. And when we say that we take this seriously, that is when it matters, because when you are willing to lose something for the principles that you hold, so we are willing to make those trade-offs, and we have done those.
Yes, sir. Sir, 1mg being acquired by such a giant conglomerate like Tata, I wanted to ask you, how has that been working out for your company, and have there been any sort of changes in operations or something like that for the company after being acquired?
So I think for us, when the Tata deal happened, it was a, a very, very exciting event for everyone in 1mg, because I think we all look up to Tata as a brand that stands for trust, and a history of 150 years building trust, it takes a lot. In many ways, our value systems are very, very well aligned. Us, of course, being based shorter time horizon, but doing business the right way, not taking shortcuts, etc., etc. All the things I spoke about to us felt like this is very much aligned with the Tata Group's way of thinking and how that business has been built. We felt that with the power of the Tata brand, the network that it brings, it should be very much possible. In fact, it is something that will happen. Is we'll create India's largest and the most impactful healthcare company. But we thought that the idea of building something that is going to endure, is going to be the biggest health play and the most impactful health play of the country, that really excited us, motivated us. And the plans that the group has, and also the infrastructure and scale the group already has. As Chanakya mentioned, we already are working closely with hospitals in Jamshedpur. We have our stores in Jamshedpur, and we are very, very happy seeing the way these things are evolving. We are working with other Tata Group hospitals across the country. The Tata Super app is about to be launched, and we do believe that the entire digital ecosystem is going to benefit significantly, and certainly our platform as well. So I think all the tailwinds are there. We have the right brand, we have the right position in the market, we have the trust of the largest number of people in the country, and we have tied it all together on a digital platform as well as through hospital partnerships within the group. So I feel very, very excited where we are right now. I think what we can create together is something that matters. India needs a good healthcare company that people love, and I think or hope we have a shot at creating that.
Yes, I certainly agree with the fact that you have the right brand backing you to generate the trust among the population. My next question would be, sir, that apart from pricing, what are the other key areas which you are focusing on to stay competitive in this market?
Yeah, to stay competitive, you have to be real about adding value continuously more than what anyone else is adding. And I think at the end of the day, it is being very focused on making life better for your consumer. You have to deserve their business, and to deserve their business, you have to solve their problems and continuously learn more, learn what else can you be doing better, how can you make their healthcare more affordable, more accessible, more preventative, and um, so what does it take at the fundamental level? It means you have to keep learning. There is no we now know what to do, and this is how it will work, because our consumers are changing very, very fast. Their expectations are changing very, very fast. We ourselves are evolving every single day, and the world we live in, the way technology is getting developed. So staying on top of this and always being in a phase where we have to always be curious, learning new technology coming now, trying to understand what this NFT world or crypto world means for us, what can it mean for our customers, patients, and we need to be curious learners all our life. And I think that's a huge opportunity for the generation of today. Beyond healthcare, in general, what I'm saying is, when I graduated, there was a huge premium to spending 10, 20 years in a role, and that is why you are the expert. You are the senior guy, you get promoted because you spend time. 20 years you have been brand marketing person, so now you are the head of marketing. In today's world, the knowledge is changing so fast that it's the young person more curious to learn faster has a better shot at being the expert than the old people. Like now I call myself amongst the old people, and if we don't stay on our toes, then we will be outdated very, very fast. So we need to keep learning, and to keep learning, we also make sure we keep bringing young people into our organizations who are um, able to figure out these new technologies and these new applications. What we can provide is a framework of values, a framework of thought process, how we want or think about it. But the way technologies are changing, the rate at which we are seeing development, and um, the opportunity to bring that change to customers at large is better than ever before.
Yes, sir. So my next question would be, sir, that how does 1mg plan to fit with Tata's super app plan of Tata New?
So on the Tata New, 1mg will be pretty much integrated as the in the health category. We will be the platform. So the super app will be a gateway to all the various offerings of the group and beyond. And 1mg certainly will be a key partner in that. So when you go onto the super app and then into the health category, that's where you will engage with 1mg. And I think the super app is built around a very deep loyalty program across the group. And what it should bring to 1mg is a lot of, see, the group has a very large scale of digital consumers who are transacting in different properties owned by the group. Now, all of them coming onto one common backend loyalty program and one common front-end platform is a lot of high quality customers that we will get access to. So we are very, very confident and excited that it's going to be a huge boost to the digital ecosystem and certainly to our businesses.
Sir, now coming to my last question, I think this question has become a norm to be asked in most of the interviews being conducted in the last 1 year. That is, how has COVID-19 impacted your company for the last 2 years and going forward now?
So we had a very central role to play in the COVID battle. So COVID had a very material impact in the way our businesses was being operated, was being run. So first thing, what happened with COVID was the appreciation of digital access to healthcare became pervasive. Everybody had to, because there was no option. So literally what happened overnight was, and till date, for the last 4 or 5 years before when we started, consumers were still appreciating the service, but we faced skepticism, and it always takes its time with respect to doctors coming onto the digital bandwagon, the regulators waking up to it, insurance, corporates, pharma companies. They were all in a wait and watch mode rather than jump in and play mode. And when COVID happened, what everyone was forced to reckon with was that physical access just vanished. And they had to figure out these digital alternatives. very, very fast. And just to give you one example, the telemedicine guidelines, the country, the Telemedicine Society, I think, got formed somewhere in 2000, 2001, and country had some draft guidelines back then, 20 years back. And for the last 20 years, every year, every 2 years, 3 years, people will talk about it and nothing will happen. COVID, the Prime Minister went on TV, said, and one of the things he spoke about was, if you need to talk to a doctor, just talk on a digital platform, call the doctor, don't go to the clinic physically. And 3 days later, we had the guidelines launched. And so pushing the ecosystem to move faster was a very, very, very fundamental change, because behavioral change of stakeholders is a long drawn process, and in healthcare it is much longer than what many people often realize. So suddenly the regulators view of the sector changed. The Ministry of Home Affairs, in the first lockdown notification, came up with a clear thing that all services are going to go under lockdown except for 3 or 4 services, one of which was e-commerce delivery of pharmaceuticals. So from a situation where the ecosystem was still wondering of whether there will be regulation for e-pharmacy or not, or what will happen, from there we went into becoming an essential service of the country that had to operate. All the doctors started reaching out to us that they needed platforms to connect better with their patients, because they realized 2 things. One, their patients were not coming to the clinic, and secondly, most of them did not want to open their clinics because they were also feeling unsafe. And what everyone recognized and learned was that it's actually safer for the healthcare practitioner, and safer for everybody. Not COVID was a case in point, but anyone, if you are a patient and carrying some kind of an infection and struggling to deal with it, you are the last person who should be going out of your home, going to a pharmacy, sitting in a lab, getting more infections from other people and giving infection to 20 more people, whether it is COVID or flu or whatever, any kind of thing. Healthcare, where it can be delivered at home, is the best way to deliver it. For you need to say you have a high fever and you are suspecting dengue. Now, if you go to the lab, 20 people sitting there in the morning, your immunity is down, their immunity is down, you'll just exchange more viruses than you came to get tested for. The same thing happens at a doctor's clinic, at a pharmacy, and even it's not safe for the doctors, not safe for the nurses. And at this point, you needed them to be fully focused on COVID management. Now, I think the appreciation of the value of a better model of healthcare where these things can be delivered safely, and patients are actually better off that way. So all that happened. Now the other part of it is, as an organization, how did we deal with COVID? Because our services were clearly needed by consumers, by regulators, by government, state, central. Everybody wanted us to scale up and step up. Now the first thing we had to do was to make sure that our teams were safe. Our guys were going on the front lines. They were scared. So how do we train them, equip them, protect them, take care of them, ensure that they have the comfort and confidence that the company is there for them? So first thing was taking care of our people and making sure that they are well equipped and willing to go into this tough environment. And first lockdown, first wave of COVID, people were really scared. People did not know what was coming at them. What is this thing? And is it going to kill everybody? What's happening? And our team members were scared. Our guys who would go to do COVID tests at home, our people who will go to do delivery of medicines, they were scared. So getting that in order, then a lot of that migration led to a lot of people going back to their villages, to finding new and training new people to step up and keep that work happening. Thirdly, there was a huge coordination need at that point, because different local jurisdictions, areas where no one is allowed. Some of our guys would get beaten up by local police, this, that. So you had to make sure that 24/7 there is a system that manages and takes care of whatever our people need. So, and the last part was at the industry and regulatory level. We worked very closely with the government. We worked very closely with all other partners. We got all the industry together so that efforts are collective. This is a collective issue. It's not about one person's business. So the healthcare industry, pretty much all of us got together and formed an industry body where we tried to create solutions at large scale in partnership with the government. So we worked on a lot of different things. And I think it was a very, very unique point in time. It was an inflection for the ecosystem. It showed our value to consumers and all other stakeholders. And as an organization, we are very, very proud of our people, the way they stepped up, the way they delivered, and the kind of respect that we got from consumers and the wonderful messages of gratitude that our teams got were heartwarming. So I think it was from 1mg perspective, it was a game-changing kind of a defining phase. And during this phase, the deal with the Tata Group also happened for us.
So I think that was the end from the questions point of view from my side. What I want to say is that I think for the last couple of years, what we have been seeing happening around us just shows us the importance of what the health tech industry holds in this world, and the importance of you and your company and what you're doing. And that is why I really hope that students from colleges like XLRI and other management institutes get an opportunity to join your company and be a part of the change which you are bringing into this world. Again, it was a pleasure interacting with you, sir.
The pleasure was all mine. Thanks for having me, and all the best to everyone.
Yes. And thanks a lot for Amitabh sir and Chandakya sir to joining us. It was an honor to have you in the meeting and interacting with us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks, Prashant, and have a great feast and festival ahead. And catch up soon with you, Prashant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Bye.